I spent almost all my money on my brother's wedding, and on the day I found out I wasn't invited. I was in the middle of eating cereal for dinner when my father called me and said, like it was nothing, "Your brother needs to stay with you." Not asked. Not can he, just needs. Like my place was a storage unit and my life was something you could rearrange with one phone call. I had my laptop open on the table because I was trying to finish a set of drawings before midnight. I'm a designer. I work from home doing architectural layouts and building designs for clients, which means deadlines that make your eyes twitch and a schedule held together by caffeine and spite. My condo was quiet in that fragile way it gets when you live alone and you're too tired to even turn on a show. I had a blanket on my shoulders and my hair was in that sad bun that exists purely out of defeat. So yeah, I was already in a mood. "What happened?" I asked, because my father only calls when something is on fire, emotionally or financially. "He got evicted," my father said. Of course he did. Before I even explain what happened next, you need to understand the family math I grew up with. I was the older one, so I was responsible by default. I was mature by default. I was the one who can handle it by default. My brother, being 5 years younger, was always the baby. Even when he was taller than me. When I got good grades, it was expected. When he got average grades, it was, "He's so smart, he just doesn't apply himself." When I got my first job, my mother told me not to get too proud. And the comments? Oh my God, the comments. Every milestone I hit came with a little insult tucked inside it. "I bought my first car? Must be nice," my father said, like I was doing something to him. "I started my business? Are you sure you're not just avoiding real adulthood?" my mother asked. "I bought this condo?" My father made a whole speech about how a woman should think about marriage like my mortgage payment was going to get lonely and leave me. Meanwhile, my brother hit almost 30 without paying rent for more than a few months at a time, and somehow my parents still spoke about his potential like it was a trust fund waiting to mature. If I sound bitter, it's because I am. I'm working on it. Kind of. So when my father said evicted, it didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like the next predictable chapter in a story I never wanted to be part of. "He can stay with you," my father repeated, like he was reminding me of an obligation. "I work from home," I said. "I need the office. I have clients. I have deadlines." My mother cut in like she was already on speaker, because of course she was. "You have 3 bedrooms," she said, and you could literally hear her smile through the phone. "You have space. Do you want your brother on the street?" There it was. The guilt button, the one she has been pressing since I was old enough to carry groceries. "Why did he get evicted?" I asked. Silence. Not the "we don't know" kind. The "we know and we don't want to say" kind. My father sighed like I was being difficult. "He fell behind. The landlord got impatient. You know how it is." No, I actually did not know how it is because I pay my bills. On time. Every time. Even when it means I am eating cereal for dinner and pretending it's a lifestyle choice. My mother's voice got softer. That dangerous soft. "It will be temporary," she said. "A few weeks. He will get back on his feet. He just needs a safe place." "A few weeks," I repeated, because I am not an idiot. I know what "a few weeks" means in my family. It means until I crack or until I accept that this is my new normal. "Why can't he stay with you?" I asked, and I hated myself for asking because I already knew the answer. My father cleared his throat. "We don't have room," he said. I almost laughed. "They have a whole house. They have a guest room they keep nice for holidays. They have space. They just didn't want the mess. They didn't want the noise. They didn't want the accountability of actually living with the person they keep enabling. That burden, conveniently, belonged to me." "Tamsin," my father said, like my name itself was a warning. "This is family." I stared at my cereal like it had answers in it. I wanted to say no. I wanted to say, why is it always my job to rescue him? Why is it never his job to rescue himself? But I could already hear the next part. My mother crying, my father saying I was selfish. My brother texting me, "Wow," like I had committed a war crime. And if you think I am exaggerating, I promise I am not. I wish I was. So I said yes. Not because I wanted to, because I was tired of being the villain in their story. The days before he moved in, I deep cleaned my place like that would protect me. I cleared out the guest room, moved my extra office supplies, locked away anything expensive or sentimental, and even hid my good towels like I was preparing for a raccoon to move in. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then I remembered my brother's track record and I hid the towels anyway. A week later, he showed up with bags, boxes, and an attitude so big it should have been charged rent. He stood in my living room and looked around like he was doing an inspection. "This is it?" he said. I blinked at him. "This is it," I repeated, because I was trying very hard to remain a person with a stable nervous system. "It looked bigger when you described it," he said. And then he laughed like it was a joke and not an insult. I had not described it as anything other than my place. But okay. He dragged his stuff toward the guest room like he owned it, and I followed him, because apparently I am a manager now. He dropped his bags, kicked off his shoes, and said, "It's fine. I'm not staying long anyway. I'll find something better." Better. Right. Because that is how the world works when you do not pay rent. The first 2 weeks were a full-body lesson in why I should have said no. He treated my condo like a hotel, and me like the staff. Dishes stacked in the sink, towels on the floor, food containers left open like he expected the air to magically preserve them. He would borrow my charger and forget to give it back, then act offended when I asked. He would run the hot water so long that I'd step into the shower and get a sad, lukewarm drizzle like the universe was mocking me. He also had this thing where he made my home feel crowded without actually doing anything. He'd sprawl on the couch, feet up, yelling at his phone, taking up space like it was a right. He'd leave his shoes in the hallway so I'd trip, then say, "Relax," like my bruised toe was a personality flaw. One afternoon, I'd gone out to meet a client for a site walkthrough. I came back and found the guest room door wide open and my brother's stuff spilling into the hallway. I asked, "Why is it all out here?" He shrugged. "I'm reorganizing," he said. "I need more room." "You have the whole room," I said. He rolled his eyes. "You're so uptight." The first time he invited people over without telling me, I was in my office on a video call with a client. I heard laughter, doors opening, heavy footsteps. I muted my mic and said through clenched teeth, "Do you have people here?" He opened my office door, without knocking, of course, and said, "Yeah, just a couple friends. Don't freak out." I stared at him like my brain was buffering. "I'm working," I hissed. He leaned on the doorframe and smirked. "Must be nice," he said, copying my father like he was mocking me and I wasn't sure he even realized it. I closed the door in his face. My client probably saw my eyes twitch. I said something like, "Sorry, neighbor noise," because I was too embarrassed to admit it was my own brother treating my home like a frat house. Then there was the night that really did it. I had a big client presentation the next morning, like real stakes. If I lost this job, it was not, "oh well." It was goodbye buffer, hello panic. I had told him explicitly that I needed quiet. I even did the sad little polite laugh when I said it, like I was asking for a favor instead of basic human respect. At midnight, he started gaming with his friends. Loud, not a little noise. Full yelling, cackling, screaming into a headset like he was trying to communicate with satellites. I came out of my bedroom in my socks and my exhaustion and said, "Hey, I have to be up early, can you keep it down?" He did not even look at me. "Relax," he said. "You're always so tense." "It's 1 a.m, I said. He finally turned, eyes bright with that smug energy that makes you want to launch yourself out a window. "God, you're controlling," he said. "No wonder you can't keep a relationship. You're miserable." That one landed. I felt it in my throat, in my chest, in that little bruise of insecurity my mother has been poking at my whole life. I just stood there for a second because my brain did that thing where it tries to process pain like it is a math problem. Then I turned around and went back to my room, because if I stayed in that living room, I was going to start screaming and never stop. The next morning, I nailed the presentation anyway. Not because I am a hero, because spite is a powerful fuel. But when I got back from the presentation, still in my work clothes, still running on adrenaline, I looked at the mess he left behind and felt something in me crack. I almost kicked him out that day. I was this close. I even drafted a message to my parents in my notes app like, "Your son needs to leave." I reread it and my hands were shaking. Then my mother called, like she could smell rebellion. "How's it going?" she asked, too sweet. I hesitated, and she pounced. "You sound tense," she said. "Is he bothering you?" I started explaining, just a little. I said he was loud at night, that I had work, that I needed him to be respectful. My mother sighed dramatically. "He's going through a lot," she said. "You have to be patient." "I am being patient," I snapped, and then I immediately regretted it because I hate sounding difficult even when I'm right. "Yes, I'm aware that's a problem." My father took the phone. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," he said. "You chose to live alone. You have space. He needs you." I stared at my wall while he talked. I wanted to say, You chose to have a son you refused to parent. But I swallowed it. So I deleted the message. I kept my brother. I kept the mess. I kept the resentment. Then, right when I thought this was going to become my life forever, he switched. Like overnight. My mother called me in the morning and said she had talked to him. She said he understood. She said, "Give him a chance, honey." That afternoon, I'd been out picking up printed materials from a shop. I came back and the kitchen was clean. Like, actually clean. The counters wiped. The sink empty. My brother was standing there stirring something on the stove like he had been cast in a commercial for reformed men. He even had music playing softly. "Hey," he said, cheerful. Too cheerful. "I made dinner." I stared at him like he was a stranger wearing my brother's face. "Why?" I asked. He laughed. "Because I live here too," he said, like this was a cute bonding moment and not a suspicious character shift. "And because I don't want you stressed. You work hard." My throat tightened. Nobody in my family says, "You work hard," like it's a compliment. It's usually said like an accusation. We ate at my little table. He asked about my work. He acted interested. He nodded. He made little wow sounds at the right times. It was almost convincing. Almost. Then, very casually, he said, "I need to use your address for some mail. Important stuff. Is that okay?" I should have asked what kind of important stuff. I should have asked why he could not use our parents' address. I should have asked anything. But I was so relieved he was being normal that my brain just grabbed onto it like a life raft. "Sure," I said. "That's fine." He smiled like he won something. Over the next few weeks, he played the role of improving brother, just enough to keep me off balance. He would clean the kitchen, but make a huge deal about it. "Did you see what I did?" he would ask, like he had solved world hunger. He would cook once a week and expect applause. He'd even do this fake little vulnerable voice sometimes and say, "I know I've been a lot," like he was becoming self-aware. And he asked questions. So many questions about money. "How are your contracts?" he would say. "Do you get paid up front? Do you have savings? What's it like running a business? Do you have credit? Like, good credit?" At first, I thought he was trying to learn. I know, I was being naive. It's my brand. I answered because part of me still wanted him to respect me. I wanted my parents to respect me. I wanted anyone in that family to look at me and see something other than useful. Then he started needing help in ways that always came back to money. The first time, it was only a few hundred. He said he wanted to take an online course. "I'm trying," he insisted. "I'm finally trying. Don't you want to support me?" I transferred it immediately. I felt proud. I felt like I was participating in his growth. I felt like a fool, but in a hopeful way. A couple of weeks later, he said he had a medical thing. Nothing dramatic enough to call an ambulance, but just dramatic enough to sound urgent. He needed over 1,000 right now, and he said it like I was ridiculous for hesitating. I paid again. No questions, no receipts, because every time I opened my mouth, I heard my mother's voice in my head. "Do you want your brother to suffer?" Then there were the little accidents. He ordered food and forgot to switch the card. He bought something online and didn't realize it used my saved payment method. Each time I brought it up, he acted wounded. "It was a mistake," he'd say. "You always assume the worst about me." And I'd end up apologizing for being upset that he spent my money. One evening, I'd gone out for a quick grocery run. I came back and found an envelope on the counter with my address on it and my brother's name. It looked official. I know I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity grabbed me by the throat. It was a notice from a debt collector. Not a small amount. A scary amount. And there, in black and white, was my address. My home. I stormed into his room, holding it like evidence in a trial. "What is this?" I demanded. He sat up in bed, annoyed, like I had interrupted something important. "Why are you in my room?" he snapped. "Why is a debt collector using my address?" I snapped back. His face changed for a split second. Then it smoothed out. "It's just mail," he said. "I needed somewhere stable. It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal," I said, and my voice shook. "You can't put my address on your debts. That's my home." He sighed like I was exhausting. "You're so paranoid," he said. "It's not like they're going to come here." "Do you know that?" I asked. He smiled. "Relax," he said. "You always spiral." I did spiral. I Googled all kinds of nightmare scenarios. I sat on my bathroom floor at midnight, reading about liens and credit issues, and what happens when someone decides your address is a target. I didn't sleep. I didn't tell my parents because I knew they'd defend him. I just lived with this knot in my stomach while pretending everything was fine. And then, like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, my brother shifted the conversation away from his debts by turning himself into a love story. One day, he came home acting like he had won the lottery. He threw himself onto my couch and said, "I have news." I was in my office, surrounded by rolled drawings and coffee cups and the kind of chaos that comes from trying to run a business alone. I walked out bracing for some new disaster. He held up his hand. There was a ring, not a flashy one. Honestly, it looked kind of cheap, but he was grinning like he had just joined royalty. "I'm engaged," he announced. I stared at him. "To who?" He rolled his eyes. "To my girlfriend," he said, like I should know. "The woman I told you about." He had mentioned a woman, yes, in passing, like a character in a story. Apparently, in his mind, that counted as telling me. "How long have you even been together?" I asked. 4 months, he said. And then he made a face like I was about to ruin his joy. "But when you know, you know." I wanted to laugh, not because love is funny, because my brother does not even know how to keep a job, and now he was committing to marriage like it was a casual plan. He launched into this description of her like he was reading from a script. She worked in finance. She handled big investments. She was successful. She was classy. She was beautiful. Everything he had always wanted, supposedly. And then he looked at me with this sudden, fake softness. "I want you to be part of this," he said. "I want us to be good. Like, really good." My chest did that stupid, hopeful flutter. The one I hate. The one that has gotten me into trouble my entire life. "I'm happy for you," I said. And I meant it, which is embarrassing in hindsight. He hugged me. It was awkward. He did not hug like someone who hugs a lot. But he held on an extra second and said, "You're the best sister. I'm serious." I swear I almost cried. Please don't judge me. I was in a weak era. A few days later, he dropped the real reason he was being so nice. He said the wedding was in 3 months. I almost choked on my coffee. 3 months? I repeated. "That's fast." "It's efficient," he said. "And we want it soon." Then he sighed, dramatically, like the universe was burdening him personally. "But we have a problem." "Of course." He explained that his fiancée had student loans, that my parents could only contribute a small amount, that the kind of wedding she deserved was expensive. He said a number that made my stomach flip. Tens of thousands. A whole year of my mortgage payments. A chunk of my savings I had been clinging to like a security blanket. He did not directly ask. He just talked about it, circling it, like a shark. He said things like, "It would mean so much if family showed up for me." He said, "You're doing well." He said, "You don't have kids." As if children are the only reason money counts. He said, "I would do it for you." That last one made me laugh out loud. I could not help it. It came out sharp. He looked offended. "What's funny?" I wiped my eyes. "Nothing," I lied, because I did not have the energy to fight. My mother called that night. Of course she did. She used the same soft voice. "It's such a big moment," she said. "He needs you. He looks up to you. He does not look up to me. He looks at me like a resource." But I said yes anyway, because I am apparently committed to learning lessons the hard way. I told myself it was a one-time thing. I told myself I could rebuild my savings. I told myself that maybe if I did this, they would finally stop treating me like an afterthought. I even told myself that maybe my brother would feel grateful and change. I can hear you laughing. So I started paying. Here's the thing about how the payments worked. The contracts were all in my brother and his fiance's names. They were the official clients. I was just the person funding it. I'd get forwarded invoices and payment links, then I'd transfer money or put my card on file as the payment method. So to the vendors, I looked like I was involved, but legally, I wasn't the one who signed anything. I was just the wallet. Deposits, vendors, a venue, food, flowers, a bar package, a photographer, the kind of expenses that feel imaginary until they are draining your account in real time. My brother would forward me emails and links and say, "Can you handle this one?" Like I was his assistant. At first, he was careful. He'd say thank you. He'd act embarrassed. He'd call me amazing. My mother started sending me heart emojis like she was proud of me. My father started answering my calls faster. It was pathetic how quickly I felt rewarded. Then it escalated. More upgrades. "It's just a little more," my brother would say. "It's not that bad." He kept pushing the budget higher while acting like I was the one being unreasonable if I hesitated. One weekend, he made me drive with him to a tasting. It was in a rented hall with round tables and a coordinator who talked fast like she didn't have time for our family drama. My brother's fiancée showed up late, kissed him, and then barely acknowledged me. She complained about the food. She complained about the chairs. She complained about the lighting. She looked at my brother and said, "Is this really what we're doing?" He looked at me like it was my fault. I pulled him aside and said quietly, "Does she even like you?" He glared. "Don't start," he said. "You're just jealous because you're alone." That one was new. That one felt like he had been storing it for later. I went home and cried in the shower, and then I got out and did a spreadsheet of all the wedding expenses because I needed to see the numbers in front of me to feel real. It was horrifying. It was also humiliating because it wasn't like I had endless money. I was just the only one in my family who had any. 2 weeks before the wedding, I finally met his fiancée properly at a dinner he insisted on. He said we should bond. He picked a fancy place and then, of course, somehow I ended up paying. Because tradition. She walked in like she was stepping onto a stage. Perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect smile that did not reach her eyes. She hugged my brother like he was the prize and then turned to me and did that quick up and down scan like she was assessing furniture. "Hi," I said, and I smiled because I was trying so hard to be normal. She shook my hand like she did not want to touch me. "So you're the sister," she said. "Yes, I am the sister. The one paying for this dinner and apparently your entire wedding." But sure, we sat. She started talking about her job in finance, and I swear she said portfolio more times than any human needs to in one meal. She corrected me when I said something casual about building layouts, like she had been waiting for the opportunity to show she was smarter. "Oh, actually," she said, with this little laugh, "that's not really how that works." I blinked. "Okay," I said, because I did not care enough to debate architecture with someone who clearly thought a spreadsheet was a personality. Then the wedding came up. She sighed and said, "It's been a process." My brother squeezed her hand like she was suffering heroically. She looked at me and said, "I've had to lower my expectations a bit, but it's fine. We're making it work." Lower her expectations. About the wedding I was paying for. Cool. She talked about how she wanted something more sophisticated, and how the current plan was cute, but not really her style. She said it with a smile, but it was the kind of smile that could cut glass. And then, like she was marking territory, she started commenting on my condo, the lighting, the furniture, the layout. "Have you ever thought about opening this up?" she asked, as if I did not literally do this for a living. She also did this thing where she talked about my brother like he was a project she was upgrading. "He has so much potential," she said, looking right at me, "if he's around the right kind of people." I wanted to say, "He's been around me, and look how he treats me." Instead, I smiled and ate my food and felt my jaw ache from holding it together. After that dinner, she started showing up at my condo more. Sometimes with my brother, sometimes without him. She'd stand in my kitchen and rearrange things. She'd bring over boxes of wedding stuff and stack them in my living room like my home was a storage facility. She once moved a stack of my drawings off my dining table and said, "We need the space." Like she lived there. I tried to talk to my brother about it. He acted like I was being difficult. He kept saying, "It's just until the wedding," like that phrase was magic. Then there was the day. I'd been out running errands, picking up supplies, when I came back and found my office door locked. I rattled the handle. "Why is my office locked?" I called out. My brother opened the door holding a roll of ribbon like he was a craft store employee. "We needed a place to put things," he said. "Why are my files moved?" I asked, staring at my desk, which had been rearranged. My drawings were in a pile. My laptop was shoved to the side. My chair had a sticky stain on it that made my skin crawl. My brother shrugged. "Relax," he said. "You're being dramatic." I felt my pulse in my ears. "You cannot do that," I said. "This is my work," he scoffed. "It's just paper," he said. "Just paper. My work, my contracts, my livelihood, my mortgage, my sanity, just paper." I called my mother, because I was weak, and I wanted backup. She answered and I said, "They're taking over my office." My mother laughed. "Oh, honey," she said, "it's just for a little bit. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a thing," I repeated, and my voice cracked. My father got on the phone and said, "Stop acting like you're the only one with stress." I hung up. I sat on my bedroom floor. I stared at my wall. I wanted to throw my brother out right then, wedding be damned. But then my phone buzzed with a text from my brother. "Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass him." The audacity made me dizzy. And still, I didn't explode. I moved my work into my bedroom for the last week. I worked on my bed like a teenager doing homework, except the homework was my adult life, and the punishment was my own family. 2 days before the wedding, my brother handed me my invitation. It was thick paper, gold lettering, all fancy. He smiled as he gave it to me. "Make sure you're early," he said. "Your family." My throat tightened again. I felt that stupid, hopeful flutter. I hated myself for it. My mother called later and said, "Wear something nice, but not too flashy," in the tone she uses when she's policing me. "You don't want to draw attention." It was such a small comment, but it hit me. Like, even at an event I was paying for, I wasn't allowed to exist too loudly. The last week before the wedding felt surreal. My brother would walk around the condo on his phone acting busy. His fiancée would call him and talk fast about place cards and playlists and some weird argument about napkin colors like it was life or death. My parents would text me thank you messages that felt more like receipts than gratitude. And I'd be in my bedroom, working on my laptop with wedding boxes stacked around me like I was living inside someone else's life. One afternoon, I'd stepped out to drop off prints at a client's office. I came back and went to use my printer. It was jammed with thick paper. Not my paper, fancy paper. I pulled it out and saw gold lettering halfway printed. The top said, "You are invited," and then it cut off. When my brother got home, I waved it at him. "What is this?" I asked. He barely looked. "Oh," he said. "Test print." "A test print for what?" I asked, already knowing the answer. He shrugged. "The invitation I gave you," he said, like I was annoying him. "I printed it here. Easier than going to the shop for one extra." My stomach turned. One extra. Like mine was an afterthought. Like it wasn't even part of the official batch. "Why did you need to print mine separately?" I asked. He smiled that fake, calm smile. "Because it's easier," he said. "Stop looking for problems where there aren't any." I tried to shake it off, but something about it felt wrong. The next day, his fiancée came over while he was out, and she walked straight into my office like she owned it. She didn't even pretend to be polite. She stood in my doorway and said, "We need the place card list." "I don't have it," I said. She made an annoyed sound. "Your brother said you'd have it," she said, "since you're paying." There it was. She said it out loud. "No thank you, no shame. Just, since you're paying." "I'm not your assistant," I said, and I surprised myself with that sentence. She blinked like I had spoken a different language. Then she laughed. "Okay," she said, slow. "Sure." She walked into my kitchen and started rummaging through drawers. I followed her like a security guard. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm looking for the envelope with the seating chart," she said. "I don't have a seating chart," I said. She turned to me and smiled in a way that made my skin crawl. "You'll see," she said. "Everything's handled." Everything's handled. That night, I asked my brother straight up, "Am I on the guest list?" He looked at me like I had asked if he was secretly an alien. "What?" he said. "Am I on the guest list?" I repeated. He scoffed. "Why wouldn't you be?" "Because it feels weird," I said. "Because your fiancé acts like I'm in the way. Because you've been weird." He stared for a second, then laughed. "You're paranoid," he said. "Of course you're invited, your family." Then he added, like it was no big deal, "Just bring your invitation. That's all you need at the door." I didn't think twice about it. I thought invitation meant access. I didn't know the venue had a separate digital check-in list, or that my name had never been entered into their system. I just trusted him. My mother called the next morning, like she always does when I start questioning the script. "Your brother said you've been asking strange questions," she said. I almost dropped my phone. "So he told you," I said. "Of course he told me," she said, offended. "We're planning a wedding. I just asked if I'm on the list," I said. My mother laughed like I was being adorable. "Why are you making this about you?" she said. That sentence hit me so hard I had to sit down. "I'm not making it about me," I said. "I'm literally paying for it." "You chose to help," she said, and her voice turned sharp. "No one forced you." I stared at the wall. "You did," I whispered. My mother ignored that. "Stop being jealous," she said. "He's happy. Don't ruin it with your insecurity." So I shut up. Again. The day before the wedding, my brother asked if he could borrow my car for errands. I said no. He got mad. He said I was trying to sabotage him. He said, "You always want control." I gave him the keys anyway, because I hate myself. He came back hours later with the gas tank low and a new scratch on the bumper. When I pointed it out, he said, It was already there. It was not. I stood in my garage staring at the scratch, and I felt this slow, quiet rage spread through my chest. Not explosive rage, the kind that makes you feel tired, like you're finally accepting something you didn't want to accept. They weren't going to change. They were just going to keep taking until I stopped them. And I still went to the wedding, because part of me needed to see it. Part of me needed to stop doubting myself. Part of me needed proof that my gut wasn't just insecurity. Spoiler, my gut was right. The wedding day came and I tried to be gracious. I tried to be the bigger person. I did my hair. I wore a dress I had bought for a different life, a life where my family actually wanted me around. I even put on heels, even though my feet hate me for it. I got to the venue early because I assumed I would be helping, because I had paid for everything and my brother had been texting me all week like, "Make sure you're there." Yeah, I know, I am a clown. I walked up to the entrance, held out my invitation, and smiled at the staff. They looked at the invitation. Then they looked at me. Then they looked back at the invitation like it might explode. One of them said politely, "Can I see your name?" I told them. They typed on a tablet. Their brows furrowed. "I'm not seeing you," the woman said. I laughed because sometimes your brain thinks a laugh is safer than a scream. "That's funny," I said. "Try again." She tried again. Still nothing. She looked up and her smile tightened. "Ma'am," she said, "you're not on the list." I felt heat crawl up my neck. "I'm the groom's sister," I said. Another staff member stepped closer, like I was about to cause trouble. "We can't let anyone in who isn't on the guest list," he said. I held up the invitation like it was proof of life. "But I have this," I said. The woman glanced at it and said, "This doesn't match the official invitations." My stomach dropped so hard I swear it took my dignity with it. "I paid for this wedding," I blurted out, because my brain was in full panic mode and I needed something to anchor it. They stared at me like I had just announced I was the president. The staff member's expression changed, less polite, more suspicious. "Ma'am," he said, "you need to step aside." People started looking. Guests in nice clothes, chatting, laughing, glancing over with that curiosity people get when someone else is being publicly humiliated. I wanted the ground to open up. I wanted to vanish. I wanted to throw up. "I need you to call my brother," I said, and my voice shook. "Call the groom." The staff exchanged looks like, "Sure, lady." They made me wait off to the side like I was a problem they were trying to contain. 5 minutes later, my brother walked up in his suit, calm as anything. He looked perfect, polished, like a man with a life and not a parasite. He looked at me and did not even flinch. "What's going on?" the staff member asked him. My brother glanced at my face, my shaking hands, my invitation, and then he said casually, "She's not supposed to be here." I felt my heart stop. Like, actually? I could not breathe. "Excuse me?" I whispered. He shrugged. "You're not invited," he said. "We didn't put you on the list." I stared at him. "But you gave me this," I said, waving the invitation. He took it from my hand, slow and deliberate, and said, "Yeah, that was fake. Fake." He said it like he was admitting he forgot to buy milk. I felt dizzy. "Why?" I asked, and my voice cracked. He leaned in slightly, like he was sharing a secret, and said, "Because you would have tried to make it about you. And we needed you calm so you'd keep paying." I swear, for a second, I thought I misheard him. Like my brain refused to accept that level of cruelty. Then my mother's voice popped into my head, and suddenly everything made sick sense. The sudden kindness, the family speeches, the way my brother had been acting like a customer service rep. My brother's fiancée appeared beside him, all white dress and perfect makeup, and she looked at me with this cold satisfaction, like she had been waiting for this moment. "Oh," she said lightly. "Is this the sister?" My brother nodded. She tilted her head and said, "I told you she'd cause a scene. I wanted to scream. I wanted to slap her. I wanted to do something dramatic. Instead, I just stood there shaking, while strangers watched like this was entertainment. My brother smiled at the staff and said, "She's fine. She'll leave." Then he looked at me and said, "You were useful, though, I'll give you that." Useful. He tore my invitation in half, then into smaller pieces. He let them fall to the ground in front of me like confetti. It was so petty and so public and so humiliating that something inside me went quiet. Not calm, not peace. Just this cold, sharp silence. Like my feelings got shoved off a cliff and all that was left was clarity. I looked at him and said evenly, "Your things are still in my condo." His smile faltered. I kept going. And all those upgrades you kept asking for, the bar package, the extra flowers, the photographer's add-ons, those were still pending charges on my card. I can pull my authorization. His fiance's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? She snapped. I pulled out my phone. My hands were steady now, which honestly scared me. I'm saying the basic stuff is paid and contracted. That's done. But everything you pushed me to add on top? I can stop those charges, right now. My brother's face went pale. You can't, he said, suddenly desperate. The ceremony is in an hour. I shrugged. You should have thought about that before you did. This, I said, gesturing at the shredded paper at my feet. He grabbed my arm. Tamsin, stop, he hissed. I yanked my arm back. Don't touch me, I said, and my voice was calm enough to make his eyes flicker. I stepped away from him and started making calls. I wasn't trying to cancel the entire wedding. The venue was paid. The food was contracted. The basics were locked in and non-refundable, and honestly, I knew that. But all those little upgrades they'd talked me into? The premium bar package instead of basic? The extra floral centerpieces? The photographer's extended coverage and album add-on? The honeymoon deposit that hadn't processed yet because it was scheduled to charge that day. Here's the thing. Most of those weren't fully paid yet. They were sitting as balance due, or final payment on delivery, or authorization pending. My card was saved as the payment method, set to process automatically. Those I could stop. I called my bank first and told them to block any pending authorizations from the vendor list I'd been tracking. I removed my card from the online payment portals where my brother had saved it. Then I started calling vendors. I didn't say cancel the service. I said I'm no longer authorizing payment. I was not the client. The couple are your clients. Remove my card and contact them directly for any remaining balance. The bar coordinator reverted to the basic package only, the contracted minimum they'd already been paid for. Anything I'd upgraded that morning that was still pending, removed. The florist canceled the additional centerpiece order that hadn't been delivered yet and was still just an authorization hold. The photographer told them I was withdrawing approval for the add-on package. They'd get their contracted minimum, and that was it. The rest was between them and the couple. The honeymoon deposit, I logged into the travel site and canceled it before it could process. My brother started pacing. His fiancée started whisper-screaming at him. My phone kept buzzing with confirmations. Every single tap felt like taking back a piece of myself. The wedding would still happen. They'd have their ceremony, their venue, their basic setup. But all the extra polish they'd squeezed out of me, gone. I walked away while they were still arguing. And no one stopped me because what were they going to do? Drag me back inside? I got in my car and sat in the parking lot for a second, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. I thought I would cry. I thought I would fall apart. Instead, I felt numb, hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left me empty. Then I drove home. On the way, my mother called. I let it ring. My father called. I let it ring. My brother called. I let it ring. My phone buzzed like a trapped insect. When I got to my building, I went straight to the manager's office. I told him calmly that my brother was a guest who had stayed beyond his welcome. I explained that there was no lease, no tenant agreement, no payment arrangement. He was purely a guest, and I was revoking that permission. The manager looked uncomfortable, but he nodded. Since he's not on any lease and you're the sole resident, he said, you have the right to revoke guest privileges. I can note it in the system as a building policy issue. If he tries to access the building, security will stop him. I can't force him to return your key, but I can make sure he's flagged. I'm going to change my locks, I said. He nodded. That's your right. And I'll make sure the front desk and security know he's not authorized. If he shows up and causes problems, we'll handle it as trespassing under building policy. That was it. No magic legal power, just standard building procedure and my right to control who had access to my home. So I called an emergency locksmith. It was expensive, of course. Everything is expensive when you need it immediately. He showed up within an hour. My brother was still at the venue and replaced the locks while I stood there, arms crossed, feeling like I was watching my old self finally get fired. While he worked, I went through my condo like a storm. I packed my brother's clothes into bags. I packed his shoes, his random gadgets, his half-empty bottles of whatever he was drinking. I did not handle things gently. I did not fold. I shoved. I dumped. I moved with this brutal efficiency that surprised me. I found the extra credit card I had given him and cut it up with scissors. I logged into every service I paid for and changed passwords. I removed his profile. I revoked access. I deleted saved payment methods. By the time the locksmith finished, my brother's belongings were packed and ready. I called down to the building manager and asked if I could leave the bags with the front desk for my brother to pick up with ID. The manager agreed and sent someone up to help me bring everything down. I labeled each bag with my brother's name and left them at the front desk with a note. Building manager has been notified. You're not authorized here anymore. Pick these up with ID by tomorrow, or they'll be stored disposed of per building policy. Everything was documented. Everything was done by the book. Then I went inside, locked my new locks, and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat on my balcony. The sun was going down. The air was cool. The city sounded normal, like nothing catastrophic had happened, which was honestly insulting. My hands were still shaking, but I felt lighter, like I had dropped something I had been carrying for years. My phone kept buzzing. I blocked my brother. Then I blocked my mother. Then I blocked my father. It felt like cutting strings. Around 11 that night, there was pounding on my door. Hard, angry, desperate. I stood there, wine glass in hand, heart racing. Part of me wanted to see his face. Part of me needed to see if he understood what he'd lost. "Tamsin!" my brother shouted from the hallway. "Open the door!" I did not. He knocked again. "Please," he said, and his voice broke. I messed up, okay? Just open the door." I leaned close and said through the door, "No." He started crying. Like, actually crying. I could hear it. "I have nowhere to go," he said. "She kicked me out. My wedding is ruined. Everyone hates me. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Just let me stay one night." One night. The famous lie. The one that turns into weeks and months. I slid the chain into place and opened the door just a crack. He was standing there in his suit, tie loosened, hair messed up, eyes red. He looked like a kid who got caught doing something stupid, not like a man who had just publicly destroyed his sister. He reached toward me. "Please," he whispered. I felt nothing. Not pity, not rage, just this flat certainty. "You humiliated me," I said. "On purpose." He shook his head like he could shake off reality. "We were stressed," he said. "We didn't mean—" "You did mean it," I cut in. "You said it out loud. You said I was useful." He swallowed. "I didn't think you'd actually cut off the payments," he muttered. That sentence was so revealing I almost laughed. "So you thought you could do that to me and I would still pay?" I said. He looked down. "Mom said—" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't put this on her like you're some innocent puppet. You're a grown man." He flinched. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, I messed up, but I'm your brother." I felt something twist in my stomach, but it was not softness. It was disgust. "No," I said. "You're my parents' son. You stopped being my brother when you tore that invitation in front of everyone." He started sobbing harder. I watched his shoulders shake, and I still did not open the door. "I'll change," he pleaded. "I swear, I'll get a job. I'll pay you back." I almost said, "You've said that your whole life." Instead, I said, "Your things are at the front desk. The building manager knows you're not authorized here anymore. Pick them up with ID by tomorrow, or they'll be disposed of per building policy. If you cause a scene, security will remove you, and I will call the police if I have to." His head snapped up. "You would call the police on me?" I shrugged. "You were going to have security drag me out like a stranger," I said. "So yeah, I guess we're both doing new things." He stared at me like he did not recognize me. Good. I closed the door. I locked it. I stood there for a second, leaning my forehead against the wood, feeling the cold emptiness spread through my chest. Not sadness, just absence. Like something that had been pressing on me for years finally let go. The next morning, my phone was full of blocked call notifications and voicemails from unknown numbers. Some were from my parents, some were from relatives. One was from my mother, crying, saying I was breaking her heart. Another was from my father, furious, saying I was making him look bad. I deleted them all like they were spam. Around midday, the building manager called and said my brother had come by early that morning and picked up his belongings from the front desk. Quietly, without incident. Apparently, he looked embarrassed. Apparently, he didn't look anyone in the eye. Good. A few days after that, my aunt reached out from a new number. She said the whole extended family knew. She said my mother had been actually bragging about how they handled me, like it was some genius strategy. She said people were disgusted. She said my mother's friends were asking questions. She said my father was angry at me, but also angry at my mother, which was hilarious because he never gets mad at her unless it affects him socially. My aunt also said my brother was living with our parents now, and they had told him he had to get a job or he was out. She said it like it was punishment, but honestly, it sounded like normal adulthood. She said he started working